Deep in the mist-drenched heart of County Offaly, Ireland, stands a ruin that refuses to surrender to time, Leap Castle. Locals say it is not simply abandoned. It is occupied. Not by the living, but by something that never agreed to leave. Even today, when the wind moves through its broken stone windows, people swear it doesn't sound like wind at all, but like breathing. No castle in Ireland carries a reputation as heavy as Leap Castle. Its stones have witnessed betrayal, bloodshed, imprisonment, and something far older and harder to explain than history alone. And at the center of it all lies one place. The Bloody Chapel. The chapel where time refused to heal. The Bloody Chapel is not a poetic name given by tourists or writers. It is a label born from events so violent that even centuries later, the stone seems reluctant to forget them. In the early 1500s, the castle belonged to the O'Bannon and later the O'Carroll clan, warrior families whose power was built as much on alliances as on knives in the dark. Inside the chapel, one of the most chilling betrayals in Irish castle lore unfolded. A succession dispute between brothers turned the sacred space into a slaughterhouse. One brother, a priest, was said to be leading a mass when another O'Carroll warrior entered, supposedly to pray. Instead, he drew steel. The altar became the last thing the priest ever saw. The floor absorbed what the stone could not forget. Even after centuries of repairs, restoration attempts, and cleaning, visitors and historians alike have reported something strange, a dark stain in the chapel floor that never fully disappears, no matter how many times it is scrubbed. Some say it is iron in the stone. Others say it is imagination. But those who stay after sunset claim something far more unsettling. They say the chapel does not feel empty. It feels paused. As if whatever happened there is still happening, again and again, just out of sight. The dungeon beneath reason. Below Leap Castle lies a structure that many historians struggled to categorize for years. It is a small, hidden chamber accessible through a narrow passage. When it was rediscovered in the 20th century during renovations, workers expected storage. What they found instead changed the castle's modern reputation forever. Human remains. Not neatly buried. Not ceremonially placed. But scattered in a way that suggested confinement, neglect, and something worse. The bones were so numerous that archaeologists estimated dozens of individuals may have died in the cramped space over time. There were no windows. No proper ventilation. Only a crude pit in the floor. Some accounts suggest prisoners were left there to die slowly. Others claim something more ritualistic, that the dungeon was not just a prison, but a place of deliberate suffering meant to instill fear beyond death. The deeper question was not how they died. It was why so many were forgotten there. Because even in war-torn medieval Ireland, such disregard felt unusual. Almost intentional. The thing called the elemental. The most disturbing legend attached to Leap Castle is not human at all. It is something the locals simply call the elemental. No one agrees on what it is. Some describe it as a stench before its arrival, like decay mixed with burnt metal. Others say it is a pressure in the air, as though the castle itself becomes aware of your presence. But the most consistent accounts describe something seen only briefly. A humanoid shape, hunched and wrong, moving through corridors where no living person could comfortably stand. One 19th-century account from renovations tells of a worker who descended into the old chambers. He reportedly felt an intense sense of being watched. When he turned, he saw a figure sitting in the darkness, not fully formed, not fully visible, but undeniably present. The worker fled the castle and refused to return. He later described the entity as, not a ghost of a person, but a thing that learned how to be seen. Whether psychological suggestion, hallucination, or folklore born from fear, the story persists because it repeats, across decades, across different witnesses, with unnerving similarity. The castle, they say, does not just remember death. It accumulates it. The music that was never played. Another unsettling pattern reported by visitors is sound. Not voices. Not footsteps. But music. Faint, almost impossible to place, like a melody drifting through stone walls. Some say it comes from the chapel. Others claim it echoes from the upper floors where rooms collapse into shadow. The strange part is consistency. Multiple unrelated visitors, separated by years, have described hearing the same slow, mournful rhythm. No instruments are found. No source is ever identified. A local theory suggests it is simply wind passing through fractured architecture. But skeptics struggle to explain why it sometimes appears even on still nights. Or why it stops immediately when approached. As if something inside the castle notices attention. And decides to hide. The castle that watches back. Unlike many haunted sites, Leap Castle does not feel like a place that haunts people. It feels like a place that reacts. People who have spent the night inside, paranormal investigators, historians, or thrill seekers, report a consistent pattern. Doors opening when no one touches them. Sudden temperature drops in sealed rooms. Feelings of being followed even in empty corridors. And the overwhelming sensation that the structure itself is aware. One investigator described it like this. It wasn't that something was in the castle with us. It was like the castle was in the room with us. This idea, of a building developing presence, is what makes Leap Castle different from typical ghost stories. It is not just about spirits. It is about memory becoming architecture. The silence after midnight. Locals say the real danger of Leap Castle is not what happens during activity, but what happens after it. At around midnight, the castle enters a phase of unnatural stillness. No wind seems to pass through its broken walls. No animals call nearby. Even insects go quiet. This silence is not peaceful. It is described as intentional. As if something within the structure is listening without needing sound. People who have stood near the castle at that hour report a strange compulsion to leave. Not fear in the traditional sense, but a sense of trespassing on something ancient and private. Something that does not welcome witnesses. What remains unanswered? Historians can explain the wars. The betrayals. The dungeon. The violence of medieval power struggles. They can even rationalize the bloody chapel as a tragic event exaggerated by time. But they cannot explain why so many independent accounts converge on the same idea. That something at Leap Castle never fully ended. Whether it is residual energy, psychological imprint, or something beyond human understanding, the castle continues to attract those who seek answers, and repel those who come too close. And perhaps that is why it still stands. Not because it has survived time. But because it refuses to be finished by it. Even today, if you visit Leap Castle and stand quietly in its courtyard, locals will give you a simple warning. Do not speak too loudly inside. Do not stay too long in the chapel. And if you hear footsteps behind you, do not turn around immediately. Because at Leap Castle, the most dangerous thing is not what you might see. It is what might realize you are there.